How's everybody doing today, YouTube? Been a while since I've done a video. I've been having some issues in the fish room here, and now that everything seems to be back in order and everybody's healthy, I decided to do an update video and let you guys know what's been going on. This is my 10-gallon Neocaridina shrimp tank. Nothing in there except for shrimp. This 10 gallons completely dedicated to it. All these fish came from Jeff from Jeff's Aquarium Hobby Enjoyment. I believe I'm saying it correctly. 5 of them are from over the summer when he shipped me some fish, and then just recently he shipped me some more fish, about I guess probably about 20. Sorry, I have a visitor. This is Remy, one of my 6-month-old kittens. How you doing, Remy? But everybody's doing great. You know, I got a lot of moss going in there, a mixture of Christmas moss and Java moss, and all these small baby cryptocorns in here. I had a local person on Facebook Marketplace. He actually just had them in a 5-gallon bucket, and they were all the roots were tangled together, and he said they'd been sitting in there for about 4 months, and he was going to throw them out. So I took them and I untangled them all and kind of spread them out throughout the tanks. Hello. Now I have 2 visitors. This is Smokey and Remy. They're litter mates. They're both 6 months old. They like to be very involved. He's climbing all over me while I'm trying to do this. This piece of wood in here is actually the same as all the other wood that I put in my tanks. It's river birch from my local creeks and riverbeds around St. Louis where I live. And what I did was I secured a piece of slate to the bottom of it, to get it to stay down, and then I drilled, as you can see, I drilled a whole bunch of, ow, my cat's climbing up my back. Hey, apparently he needs some attention. But yeah, I drilled a whole bunch of holes all over the sides, in the back, and I put this in here about 15 minutes ago, and as you can see, the shrimp are all over it. There's already a few inside the holes that I've seen climb in there. I got a bunch of Anacharis growing in the back. Some's floating on top. DIY sponge filter back there, and they're doing really well. I had my white cloud minnows in here with them, and everybody seemed to be getting along just fine. And ever since I took the white clouds out and put them in a separate tank, the shrimp, you can just watch them swim everywhere. I mean, they're just constantly, like you can see that one right there swimming around. They're a lot more active now that it's just them. And you can see on top of the stump there's probably 4 or 5 of them. And I got a bunch of different colored ones, a lot of reds, but then there's also a lot of striped ones that Jeff sent me that are really cool. So, alright, that's it for this shrimp tank. Say bye, Remy. And I'll move on to one of my other tanks. Stand by. Okay, here we are at my 20-gallon high. One of my last videos, this tank was dedicated solely to the black molly babies, and there was at least 25, 30 of them in there. They've all pretty much gotten big enough to where they can go into other tanks. I still have probably 4 or 5 running around in there. Once they get bigger, I'll probably throw them into my 55-gallon, or I'll give them to a friend of mine who also loves black mollies. So what I did was I ended up planting this tank up, put the driftwood back in. I potted a cryptocorn in the back. I got some Java fern glued to some of the rocks right there. And now this is basically guppies, endlers, and guppy endler hybrids is what this tank is here. And what you see floating at the top there, that's actually jungle val that I took out of my 55 right before disaster happened. And originally I threw it in here when it was just the mollies, and I hadn't planned on leaving it in here, but now I kind of like the look. And you know, the roots have been getting a lot longer on it, and the fish like swimming in it, so I've just kind of left it in there. I'll get you guys a closer look at what I got going on in here. Some of the endlers and some of the guppies. See if I can. That's one of my latest. It just came out of quarantine. Scarlet endler. He's pretty fast. Doesn't like to be on camera. Algae eater in the back. Like I said, oh, and I have a male beta in here. My daughter named him Chip. He is the most laid back beta I have ever had. He doesn't bother anybody, doesn't care who's around him. I had him in with my mollies. He seems to like it a lot better in this tank. You know, I don't have a hang on the back filter on this tank, so there's there's hardly any flow, and he seems to really enjoy that. There's some of the baby black mollies down there. There's one of those spade tail leopard endler guppies. So yeah, so this tank has now been dedicated to my guppy endlers and guppy endler hybrids. Everybody seems to be doing great. Now I'll move on to the next tank. So this is my daughter's tank. This is a 20-gallon long, and eventually it's going to have some glow danios in there, those glowfish. She's been dying for some of those. She used to have some a while back, and I've been promising her some more, so she's going to get those. This is where I rehoused my white cloud minnows too. Let me get you closer up and you can see them. All those roots, that's duckweed roots you see coming down. Duckweed, they've gotten really long. There's in here it's a lot of fake plants, just like glow plants and stuff like that, because she's gonna get those glowfish. But there's some more of the baby cryptocorns that I pulled apart from that gentleman. I got them for free. They were pretty tiny when I put them in here about a month ago, and they've been growing really well in here. You know, I got a Beams work light on here, and it seems to be doing really well. There's probably about, I want to say, 10 white clouds in here. At one time I had about 60 white clouds, and I gave a bunch of them to my parents because they were setting up a tank with white clouds only, and so a bunch of them went there. In the summertime I will put these guys out in a tub again and breed them, and so I'll probably wind up with a whole bunch more of them, because I had a lot of luck last summer with that. So once I get the glowfish in here, I'll do another update on this tank. But for now, it is just the white clouds. On to the next tank. Alright, this is my 29-gallon. It's going to be just swordtails. Right now there's 4 swordtails in there. I got 3 female pineapple swordtails and 1 that they just called a miscellaneous male swordtail. And you can see over there I got 3 black mollies. Those are going to a friend of mine, as well as this marble sailfin molly. That's a male. I got him for a couple dollars out of a miscellaneous tank, and I put him in the 55 gallon, and as soon as I put him in there, the other male sailfin I have in there just immediately started beating him up, and he was just relentless. He would not let him up. I took him out, I separated him, I put him back in, tried a couple different things, and I mean, it just never stopped. He was beating him up pretty good, so finally I just had to take him out and put him in here. My friend's got a 55 gallon with a lot of female mollies, no males, and so I'm gonna rehome him to her tank along with the 3 black mollies that are growing up. As you can see, there's a platy right there. She was getting harassed because she's pretty pregnant, and so I moved her into here. That's why you see those floating plastic plants up there. I usually don't use plastic plants in my tanks, but all my floating plants died, and I'll get into that in a minute. But they all died, and my local fish store is completely out of hornwort and water sprite, which is what I like to use. But see if I can get a closer look at the swordtails. There's the pineapple swordtails. There is the one that was miscellaneous. They couldn't really tell me what it was, but I really liked the sword on him and thought he was pretty cool looking. But once I rehome the mollies, and I feel like she's okay to go back in the 55, I will get more swordtails for this tank. I'm thinking about getting a couple of the red velvet females, and maybe some green male swordtails. There's also a couple of platy fry in here that when I had platies in here before, I guess they a couple of them managed to survive all the sickness that was unleashed on 2 of my tanks, and so there's 2 of those guys in there. So as soon as they're a little bigger, I'm going to put them into the 55 gallon. Alright, on to the other tank. This is just going to be really quick. This is my 10 gallon, and this is where I put all my pregnant mollies. The platies, I have so many of them, I just let them have their babies in the tank, and unless, I may try and save some more of the babies just because I've lost so many over the last month. But right now I have a very pregnant, some people call them gold dust, some people call them yellow panda mollies, but yeah, she's very pregnant. And what this is, I got this idea from Dean on Aquarium Co-op. This is basically a basket for planting pond plants, and it sits perfectly inside a 10-gallon tank, and it's all black, and you can see it's got holes in the bottom, all around the sides and everything. So when she gives birth, all the fry swim out into the 10-gallon tank, and then I'll give her another day or so in there, and then I'll put her back in the 55 gallon. So that's it for that one. On to the next. Okay guys, so this is my 55 gallon live bearer community tank. As you can see, I'm not sure if you remember or not, this piece of driftwood here is new. I got my Nubius coming up through it. I got some Java fern on there. Over here I used to have a ton of water sprite, a ton of jungle val. Up here was hornwort floating attached to a suction cup, I had a bunch of anacris in the back. You know, it was really, really heavily planted, and I liked it a lot. What happened was, this tank, along with the 29-gallon that I just showed you, got Calmaneris worms. I believe I'm saying it correctly. And I'd never had that before. And I saw these. What happened was, I saw these white patches on my my black mollies, and I immediately thought it was ick. So of course, what I did, I turned the temperature way up and treated it with ick for 2 or 3 days, and saw it was only getting worse. And then I could tell other symptoms, and by the other symptoms, I could determine that it was Calmaneris. And unfortunately, what happens with Calmaneris is, when you turn up the temperature, when the hotter the water, the more it spreads. It spreads a heck of a lot faster when the water's warm. And I had turned up the heat for about 4 days to get rid of the ick, and which was not ick. And by the time I was able to treat everything, I lost probably 13 platies, quite a few guppies, a couple mollies, and I had to do 2 treatments with Furan 2, and that knocked it out. And I don't know if it was the medication. I think it was the medication that did it, because I'd read some other reviews that other people said the same thing. Killed half my plants. I mean, all the floating plants just pretty much deteriorated. The jungle val went down to nothing. I mean, it pretty much just died all the way down to the roots. You can see I have some dwarf sage in here. This was the same height. It had all died off pretty much. It's all sprouting back up now. My Amazon sword in the back was about twice that size. My Java fern was huge. It was taller than the tube on the sponge filter, and that's what it looks like now. And this was all in the course of about 3 weeks. It just kept getting worse, you know, no matter water changes, fertilizer, what have you, everything just kept deteriorating. And you know, water quality was perfect, but I guess from what I've read, the medication can sometimes do that. So I've kind of started over with, you know, a few new plants. That cryptocorn right there in the pot is from, again, from the cryptocorns that I got from that gentleman, where I had to separate them all out. I bunched a bunch of them together and put them in that pot with some root tabs, and they've been doing really good. This pot here is jungle val. I put some root tabs down in there as well. I'm trying to get some more of that started, and once it's established and gets taller and I know the roots are good, I'll probably take it out of the pot and plant it back into the substrate. And again, floating plants up top, plastic, you know, just because the hornwort and the water sprite that I like to use is, you know, for whatever reason, it's just unavailable to me right now. They say they're going to be getting some in soon, so hopefully that's the case. This piece of driftwood here, I just got that from my local creek. It's river birch. It's actually there was most of the driftwood I get is root systems, because a lot of the trees on the edge of the riverbed, you know, they get planted by the birds, and over the years they're so close to the edge of the bank that when we get some big storms, they turn over, and the roots systems on them are just really wicked looking. and that's where I get a lot of my stuff from. And so that's a new addition to the tank. There's some baby Mollies, Dalmatians have been born in here. There's also there's the Gold Dust Molly, has had some fry in here. This one, that one here, she's had a few fry that have survived. There's my Dalmatian Molly. There's one of the black mollies that actually came out more silver. Kind of cool looking. But there's a lot of baby mollies. They like to hide in this big cryptocorn here, and all throughout. There's one of my corridors back there. I got 5 of them running around in here. There's another one there. There's my female beta, who's been doing awesome in this tank. There's one of my female sailfin mollies. There is one of my favorites in the tank. That's my male sailfin molly with the layer tail. He's the one that was picking on the other one that I had to take out. He's kind of the boss of the tank. That's I think that's it, guys. That's gonna do it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and leave any comments down below. They're always appreciated. And oh yep, I also have one. It looks red on camera. I just lost him, but he's actually an orange male swordtail. There he is. He's been chasing around some of my female platies. I got him from a friend before I decided to make the other tank a swordtail tank, and so I'm kind of up in the air whether I'm going to leave him in here or transfer him over to my swordtail tank. I'll let you guys know what I decide on that. Alright guys, well I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Monday, and have a good one.